When you're first starting out, you have your big idea you're really passionate about. After you've written 30 books, you're like, pasta. And you're like, I could write a book about pasta.
Welcome to the Gopherwood Lounge. Come in out of the rain and chat with us for a while. I am ARC Senior Editor David F. Sharirad, and I am joined today with, ARC Editor-in-Chief Tony Daniel. Producer Mike Gee, we're so happy to have you on as a guest yet again.
Thanks.
And making his ARC Press Gopherwood Lounge debut, he's not really a real writer. Larry Correia. No, he is New York Times best-selling author Larry Correia.
But who believes the New York Times anymore?
Well, that's true. He is bestseller across the spectrum. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
If they could take away the New York Times bestseller title now that they know who I am, they would.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They are so embarrassed by that.
If you are watching us, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, and the X equivalent of all those little gigas that you hit. All right, guys, let's talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Let me add a couple of things. So Larry is the author, creator of the Monster Hunter International series, which is his giant seller one. He's the creator of the very fun, what's the one with Jake Sullivan called?
Grimoire Chronicles, Hard Magic.
Hard Magic.
Yeah, Hard Magic's book one.
And recently this enormous epic fantasy series called the Son of the Black Sword was the first.
Yeah, Saga of the Forgotten Warriors. So Son of the Black Sword's number one. Yeah. Know that, and I just wrapped that up.
And that's one of those. Oh, you just spoil us. That's one of those fantasy series that you'll never finish, right? Because it's impossible to finish a big epic fantasy series.
Yeah, it's
right?
super impossible if you're an artsy fartsy artiste of specialness. But I work for a living, and so I just finished it. And it was good.
Congrats.
Do you remember when all the? I'm sorry. And Mike Gee is a producer extraordinaire of a lot of cool things that are in the works and that have been made, including working on the recent movie,
Best Christmas Pageant Ever.
Christmas Pageant Ever, as one of the guys that saw it through or helped make it possible.
Yeah, I was one of the early guys. So years and years.
And lots of other stuff. You've been in this business forever, and so it's wonderful to have both of you guys. But what I was going to say is, remember when all the cartoon guys were retiring? Like the guy that did Calvin and Hobbes, he's like, I'm done with this. I'm out of here. And Burt Breathitt was like, man, I have nothing more to say.
Gary Larson was about that.
Gary Larson went away. And then Scott Adams was like, are you guys out of your minds? It's like, I'm going to do Dilbert till I drop dead, because this is what I do. This is my job. It's not like...
If you get retweeted by Scott Adams on X, it's worth like a couple million hits too, by the way. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Who even remembers who Burt Breathitt is anymore?
I remember Bill the Cat.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Gary Trudeau. So
I think most of my philosophy came from Calvin and Hobbes. So
yes.
Yeah,
it's a must.
Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes is awesome.
Well, it will live forever on the back of pickup truck windows.
Much to Watterson's eternal dismay.
Yeah. I'm actually even thinking I might even be mixing up names with like with the creator with which cartoon they made. But that senility creeps up on us all. So back when we had newspapers and we actually had cartoons.
So my second question then would be...
That wasn't a question, was it?
Let's reminisce.
My first question to Larry would be, what the hell's wrong with your rotator cuff?
Okay. So I came in whining and crying, and I can't hardly move it. I'm doing jujitsu, and I'm not good at it. And I'm old. I used to fight a lot when I was young, and I took about 20 years off, and then I decided I'm going to do, I'm going to, as I get old, I'm going to get back into this. And my kids were doing jujitsu, so I started going. And my problem is in my head, am still 25 years old and indestructible. And so I tend to do things as if I'm not, almost 50. And so I got tore up, and I should have tapped. And I tried
tell the whole story. I like that.
Well, there's a thing called Shark Tank where you just go over and over again. It's all night, and you're just fighting one after the other, just taking turns. And I went up against a guy who's a semi-pro MMA fighter, and nice guy. No, it was not his fault. And he dominated me and had me in an arm bar and was putting the pressure on. And I went to tap, but my other hand was trapped. and I couldn't hit him, and so I started tapping the floor. And you're supposed to say tap out loud, but I was out of breath and kind of, at that point, kind of panicking. So the young guy was like, "Wow, this old dude must be really tough." And no, I'm actually not that tough. And
he was giving you a lot of credit.
No, he shouldn't have. And 30 years ago, I wrecked this shoulder in a bike wreck, and so it would, So that was about a month ago, and I'm not. I can lift it.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah, I can above my head now. It's pretty cool. Actually, I was telling the fans on Facebook that they're in luck because this position here is fine.
It's one place that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, seriously.
Your resting position.
The two things I could do is play Xbox. I can't shoot. I haven't been able to shoot for a month because that, going over and over again. But typing, and I play Xbox, and I could put a pillow on my lap and put my hands on the pillow and play Xbox. So that's,
That's so precious, Larry.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I tell you, as you get older, you injure everything, and it's loads of fun, good times. But
listen, you can do anything, break anything, but don't get carpal tunnel, right? That's the writer's enemy right there.
Yeah, I haven't done that. So
that's good. Then you're on a good trajectory.
Yeah.
That happened to me once when I was trying to, back in the 90s, when I was pulling a lot of espresso. And there's this movement and I worked I was in New York and I was working 10-hour days. There's this movement with the spoon you make over and over again. I'm left-handed, so I did it this way. And I got something popped at one point, and it took me almost a year and a half to be able to use a typewriter again.
Oh,
and as I was an aspiring writer at the time, that was a bad thing to have happen. So
yeah,
I had espresso spoon carpal tunnel syndrome.
That's a new one.
It's probably the reason I didn't write a New York Times bestseller.
Oh, yeah. Blame it on.
It would have.
If that only didn't happen.
This little tendon right here, I blew it up one time, and for a while there, I had, cause my oldest son, who he's an adult now, but he was a jock, right? He is 6'6", 260 pounds, pure muscle, Johnny football hero. This kid's buff. So we're going to the gym when he's 16 years old, right? And we're lifting weights, and once again pretending like I'm 25 years old again. And I was looking at these buff guys, and they're lifting, and they're doing curls, right? And 25 pounds. And I'm like, watch this, Joe. That's my son. And so I grabbed a 75 in each hand, and I was just like, boom, boom. I still got it. Yeah. And all of a sudden, this little thing right here just went pop. And I had about a 3-month period where I couldn't pick up a 2-liter bottle because I couldn't squeeze it. I actually shot left-handed for a period of 6 months because I couldn't squeeze. And I'm a handshaker too. So I go to these book signings and stuff. Yeah, I had book tour during this, and I was trying, and I would forget because I'm a compulsive handshaker, and I tried to teach myself to do the fist bump because otherwise I'd be just and most normal humans I'm fine, but then I would run up the guy I'm a former dairy farmer, so I've got pretty good grip strength, and I would run into the construction worker or the garbage man or the guy who hauls concrete foundations, and we'd do the handshake, and I would be reminded about this stupid little thing, and then I'd go and try to sign my name 100 times, and good times.
Wow.
Speaking of signing your name 100 times, it wasn't quite 100, but this is by the time this airs, this will be over. But we're coming up as we record on our ARC Press launch celebration. These are going to be the door prizes we're going to give away to the people who've RSVP'd, and you signed a bunch of these for them. But since we asked the people who grade comics and stuff to come down and give us certificates of authenticity, but they were busy. So why don't you sign one on air so that everyone knows that we didn't just have Tony Daniel fake your signature.
Yeah. Well, actually, he could, because my signature is utter garbage, as you guys can see. And that's
I'm
actually
left-handed in everything I write.
That's why I add the happy face there.
There we go. All right. So
it's actually the Air Force's fault that ruined my signature.
That's a little devil thing, right?
Yeah.
Monster Hunter.
Because I was a military contract accountant, and I had to sign my name hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times a day. And so I used to have a normal signature like a normal person, and then just kind of turned into a squiggly line. That's what's the Air Force's fault. And then I started signing books, and so people think that my signature is like lazy from book signing. Oh, no. It was the government that ruined my ability to...
The government.
As much else.
Yeah.
I actually had to update like a really old account. I was like a really, really old life insurance account, and they rejected my own signature because I originally got this back when I still had a normal human writing in cursive signature. Yeah. So.
Wow. You alienated yourself.
I couldn't remember how to do it. Wow. It's been so long.
So we should say, why is it that Larry is signing these?
Why is it that we're launching a publishing house, and he is he's helping us launch it?
Yeah, he's going to write a book for us, and a graphic novel.
Yeah.
The thing about those posters that's cool, I thought, also that it's a copy.
It's a copy of the poster from February 2nd for the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, which February 3rd is the day that Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens died. The day the music died, but it's February 3rd because it was like 1:30 in the morning. So the February 2nd in Clear Lake was the last show they played, and this was the poster from it. And Tony got the idea that we could repurpose it. So
we were going to bring him back.
We're going to bring Buddy back.
Closing a time loop.
Yeah,
that's
right.
I like that.
Yeah.
I will drive carefully.
That's right. No,
to get to the event.
It's not because everybody who's featured is going to die.
I was one time on an airplane.
DJ David A.
It was flying from Salt Lake to, I want to say, Indianapolis for like Gen Con, right? Yeah. And I get out on the plane, and Brandon Sanderson's sitting in first class, and I go back a little bit more, and then there's Brandon Mull. And then I go to, Comfort Plus or whatever. And I wasn't flying first. And so I'm going through, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like three authors from Utah on this plane. I was like, this could be like the literary equivalent to the Buddy Holly thing. I guess I was the Big Bopper of that group. And I was like, fingers crossed.
Listen,
guys.
if you guys had gone down, we wouldn't have any writers in Utah anymore, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm joking. There's good writers in Utah, and there's a lot.
David's like, man, maybe if they had gone down,
there was it was going to Gen Con, so I'm sure there's some less famous writers sitting behind me, but I don't know who they were. So yeah, no one cared about those guys. The writers that were in Coach, I don't know.
The writers in Coach.
Whatever, I fly Coach still. I'm cheap.
Right. Take what they give you.
If I'm paying, I'm sitting in the back by the bathrooms. Let's be honest. I'd probably be riding in a dog carrier and cargo if I could afford it. But it's good times. Oh yeah, I'm writing books for you guys now.
Yes. Should we talk about that now or later?
Let's do it now.
All right.
This seems like the natural.
It seems like it's a good segue.
Yeah, segue.
Yeah.
So
I asked Larry if he wanted to revisit modern times, since he's been journeying into many paths, into World War II, Steve Diamond series, World War I, sorry.
Yeah.
The Sullivan books are 30s?
1932, yeah. The first one starts.
Hard-boiled stuff. And the epic fantasy land is in it. It's like in India that got torn from India and taken into another dimension and twisted into something that was only possible in Larry Correia's brain.
Yeah, so I've bounced around. So I started out doing contemporary fantasy, modern times, but with fantastic elements. Yeah,
Monster Hunter International.
But since I'm a multi-genre kind of guy, I don't like to get pigeonholed, and so I like to bounce around from thing to thing and do different genres. And so it's actually been a while since I've done a contemporary thing, other than short fiction. I've done some sci-fi in there too, but it's been a while since I've done like modern world, different take on stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many others. We could talk about your thing with Mike Capari with the.
That was contemporary, but it was a thriller.
Crazy conspiracy theories. What if they were true? Now we know that they are.
I know. The funny thing is those books turned. I mean, we wrote these quite a while ago, but those books turned out. Dead Six is the first one. Those turned out remarkably prescient.
Sorry.
Yeah, Mike Coopery. So we went through, and it was like we stole from Coast to Coast AM kind of conspiracy theories, which kind of like the foundation of the book.
That is the best place to get.
Well, so the plot's basically a bunch of black ops kind of mercenary things going down with like secret government backing. They're throwing a coup in a third world country, is what it is. But some of the stuff we put in that book came so true. Like, oh my gosh, like we nailed 5 or 6 different things that came to pass after we wrote this, like politically and historically, and we didn't intend it that way. So that said, if nuclear weapons ever go missing, don't go to Paris.
Okay.
Just gonna say, because that's how I'm not gonna spoil the last book.
So
but
you could, I mean, just in case, just don't go to Paris.
yeah, don't be in the channel.
So you haven't had any guys in dark suits coming in to take you guys out because you're too close?
No, it's kind of funny, but like we had like the whole narco trafficante revolution kind of going on in Mexico. We had whole bunch of political. We had stealth helicopters, which before that was a thing that we actually crashed and on the news, and they're like, oh hey, those exist. And no, we had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, that was contemporary, but that was a thriller. And then Monster Hunter's urban fantasy, which is funny because it's mostly rural. So I kind of hate the term urban fantasy, but that's where I get lumped.
Yeah,
you know,
I like contemporary better just because it's.
Yeah.
I mean, your stuff is not.
I'm not an urban
about
guy.
elves in cities that are are falling in love.
I live in the sticks for a reason, and I live in the middle of nowhere, and that's how I like it. Out in the mountains of northern Utah, it's wonderful.
And there's less gun control.
Oh yeah, none. My sheriff don't care. It's like we hear way more full auto than I know there's full auto registered in this county. And he's like, I didn't hear nothing.
Which is an essential component of Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, Monster Hunter is very much given the finger to authoritarianism. That is, I guess, kind of a theme in a lot of my work, regardless of genre.
Yes.
I'm not a collectivist kind of guy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is so when you came to me and you're like, hey, we got this new publishing house. This is what we're doing. Are you interested? And plus, I've worked with a lot of the guys that
all of us, yeah.
Your entire crew. I've worked with at times, and I'm friends with. I got good relationships with them. And DJ Butler's not on camera, but that's another fella that I've worked with a lot. And Tony, you've edited several of my books. Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I like these guys. And so I asked Tony, I said, well, okay, ideally, what are you into? I mean, what would you like to see for a Larry Correia project? And that's, he came to me and said, okay, he just kind of gave me his wish list.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything planned at the time. So we got the wish list and I started looking at it and I was like, okay, what would I do with it? One thing you guys will discover, because I came in to the last one when you guys were talking about how a lot of people watching this will be aspiring writers or starting out. When you're first starting out, you like hoard ideas. You know what I mean? Like you have your big idea you're really passionate about. After you've written 30 books, you're like, give me something. And you're like, pasta, and you're like, I could write a book about pasta. Yeah. Because once you've been doing this for so long, it's
channels are established.
Yeah. You've dug the mental connections have been made.
So you're still. I mean, this would be interesting because you're still. I don't necessarily even want to talk about what the concept is. We don't even have a title yet. You have a main character's name that has resonated with you, which I think is cool. Not even.
I'm still trying to decide. I'm flipping between 3 different first names. Well, so one of the things. Okay, so I'm a Westerner. I grew up in California. Don't hold that against me. I'm a political refugee. I've lived in Utah since the early 90s. And I set Monster Hunter in the South because I lived in Alabama too. And I love the South. The South is a weird place, but culturally the South is a distinct thing. The Intermountain West is a different thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so when we're talking about setting, I've never really done anything modern, Intermountain West, because this is my people. This is my culture. This is where I live. And this is what I'm into. Like
Saving the best for last, I'd say. Or maybe not
I
the
hope
last.
not the last. Oh my gosh.
For the prime of your
Saving the best.
Life.
For
I mean,
right now.
if I keep getting injured the way I am, it might actually. I'm just gonna
put some insurance on it.
I'm just gonna die on the mat, and it'll all be good.
Listen, you can do voice to text. You'll be okay.
I mean, David Weber learned how to do voice to text.
That's right.
Man,
That's right.
David Weber is somebody that thinks like a tree fell on him when he was working on.
Oh my gosh, David is the most injury prone. He fell down the
Things
stairs
happen to
at
him.
Dragon Con
Yeah.
and broke his wrist.
Yeah.
I love David, man. He needs to take care of himself.
Yeah. You should just probably never go anywhere.
Well, then the hurricane that came through and hit North and South Carolina dropped a tree on his office.
Again.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah, he's
So he wasn't
He's had more than one tree fall on.
I mean, yeah, David, if you're watching this, please take care of yourself.
Please, yes.
Please, brother, take care of
We
yourself.
want a lot more.
We love you, David. I'm a David Weber fan.
Hi, I'm DJ Butler, Senior Editor of ARC Press. How would you like to win $10,000? I want to talk to you briefly about the ARC Prize. The ARC Prize is a novel writing contest in 2025. The first thing you need to know is that the theme of the contest is America 2076. That is, of course, the 300th birthday of America, measuring from the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Our plan is to publish the winner on July 4th, 2026, which is to say on the 250th birthday. So your winning novel on America's 250th birthday will be published talking about America at 300. Now, does that date 2076 mean that you have to write some kind of near-term science fiction novel? Absolutely not. You can interpret the theme America 2076 any way you want. Formally, we're launching the prize on March 8, 2025, which is, as we all know, all we writers and editors know, National Proofreading Day. And don't we appreciate those people? And the contest will run for 7 months, 7 full NaNoWriMos to end on National Taco Day, which, as we all know, is October 7th. 2025. Now, let me tease you a little bit more. I said up front you could win $10,000. Actually, the prize is a publishing contract with ARC Press with a $10,000 advance. So if the book does well, you might make more than $10,000 over time. There's more information and will be more information on our website. Information about the contest, information about how to write a proposal, the widget for submitting these materials on our website, which is www.arc.press. That's all from me. I look forward to hearing from you, and good luck.
So, I mean, when you say, all right, I grew up you didn't grow up in L.A., California. You grew up on a truck farm somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
no, I grew up on a dairy farm in San Joaquin Valley. So I'm country. I'm a farm kid. I'm a poor farm kid. Like, we were broke, poor farmers. And kids who are from the country know what I'm talking about. Like when I say poor farmer versus farmer, there is a definite difference there. And so I'm from a little town called El Nida, which is basically Portuguese dairy farmer central. And you were either Portuguese, Mexican, or Okie. That was basically our demographic breakdown. So all that stuff about the Grapes of Wrath, like everything that most of America knows about the San Joaquin Valley, they got from Grapes of Wrath or movie adaptations. Okay, to the Portuguese, those were the villains. Okay, the Okies were not the heroes of the story.
And that you are Portuguese.
I am Portuguese.
Korea is the is a
Though
Portuguese.
that said, my mom got lumped in with the Okies, even though she's never been to Oklahoma in her life, has nothing to do with Oklahoma, and she wound up in the San Joaquin Valley because of Castle Air Force Base, because she comes from an Air Force family. My Portuguese dad married a super white girl, and so because of that, she always got considered the Okie. And I was half Okie.
Oh my gosh!
Which
you were outcast among outcasts.
Yeah, which was really good. Plus, my dad wouldn't speak Portuguese at home because my dad was fluent, but my dad was adamant. It's like my dad was very much America first. We were in America. We're going to speak English, because we knew too many other families that they still spoke Portuguese at home, so their kids were kind of handicapped, like going to school and stuff, because their English sucked because they spoke Portuguese primarily. Though now, knowing what I know now, I was like, man, I wish my dad would have,
at least
yeah.
the way to conjugate the verb.
Yeah, so my knowledge of Portuguese is limited to everything involving dairy cows or swearing, which is the same thing.
But those are the important things right there, right?
All the
Dairy
terminology
cows,
related to managing
swearing.
dairy cattle, I am a master of beyond that, and all the Spanish I know is involving dairy cows and
swearing?
yelling at them. Yeah, so
Nice.
yeah, good times. No, so I'm country, and so one of the things that Tony mentioned, ideally for like the kind of guess the backdrop here is rural, and that more of that blue collar lifestyle and that world. Because one thing with contemporary fantasy is that people tend to write what they know, and most of them are either suburbanites or they are city people. And so that's why we have so much like urban fantasy. I like contemporary. We were talking about this before the show started. I like the term contemporary fantasy more than urban fantasy. Like Monster Hunter gets lumped in with urban fantasy, but it takes place in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, for the most part.
Where I grew up, by the way. You
Yeah.
know where Alabama is.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, yeah, my hometown is the back house of nowhere, but you had it 40 miles closer to a city, so yours is
What's your hometown?
Anniston, Alabama.
Oh, see, because Anniston to me was just, when I was there, was Fort Rucker.
Yeah, it's Fort McClellan.
Oh, Fort McClellan, not Rucker.
Yeah,
McClellan.
Rutgers in Montgomery, right? That's the
Yeah, Rutgers. So McClellan.
helicopter base
Yeah.
down there, the Air Force Base. Yeah,
Yep.
McClellan was the huge thing. It was a huge thing.
I
I grew up
I
with the
flipped
sound of
my
machine
bases.
guns. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, you were Air Force in your head.
I know.
So-
Anniston is a cool town, though. I like Anniston.
It's all right.
Well, I'm comparing it to Birmingham, and I was in North Birmingham, so comparing North Birmingham to Anniston.
Well, my mom's
Yeah.
from Birmingham. Let's not get into this. My granddad was in the steel mills and coal mines of Birmingham, and that's really where we're from. So
Yeah.
Birmingham was cool in its way, and I went to college there and everything, so that's okay.
I'm an adopted Southerner, I guess I'd say, but I'm a Westerner. But then that's my second favorite place, and then
Well, I mean, you went to DeSoto Caverns, which is in the second Monster Hunter,
first one, yeah,
the first one.
yeah.
So I was like, and I knew what you were talking about.
I had to flip it from Happy Hernando to Friendly Fernando. So to avoid, because they have a little conquistador headed mascot, and so I had to flip it to not be too on the nose. I changed one letter, It's like two on the nose there.
It's a big deal in northern Alabama that DeSoto came through. So a lot of things named after that. So
That's one thing I'm borrowing. I love old history stuff, and I know, like I said, we have DJ Butler off camera, and he's a huge history nerd. So I will probably be bugging him for research purposes. Plus, his knowledge of American Indian stuff is pretty spot on. And,
Get him to speak the language.
oh yeah,
Oh my goodness, he
Yeah,
goes and goes.
yeah.
he named one of his dogs in Ojibwe.
Yeah, Ojibwe.
Can we say the name of the dog?
She-Who.
Could I say that? Yeah. Okay. So his dog. Well, okay. The one I knew was
doxing Dave's
Ziggy,
dogs.
and I was like, "Oh, is Ziggy Marley or Ziggy the little bald comic?" He's like,
Stardust.
"It is actually the whatever conjugate of the verb to pee in Ojibwe because she was, And I was like,
She was always
Actually,
peeing.
specifically, Ojibwe rejoices in abundant verbs. It is specifically to urinate accidentally by overexerting yourself.
Specifically.
You bend over and you cause yourself to pee. That's a jiggy.
okay.
So you can see why I would use Dave Butler for research purposes.
Oh yeah.
Specifically to exert yourself while peeing and
Yes.
bending over backwards.
Many different ways to
Those
use the word
Ojibwe.
pee, right?
It's like
In any language.
exactly. The Eskimos had a lot of words for snow.
Yeah.
The Ojibwe had a lot of words for different ways to pee.
For some reason.
That's like it says something about the culture, man. If you
fact
believe
is-
the Wharf
the
Safe
fact-
Fire
They were well
hypothesis.
hydrated, I guess. Maybe.
And he looks like a 6'8",
well-hydrated people.
6'8" Viking chieftain, yet he speaks American Indian languages.
Dave Butler, yes.
Yeah. So
And Latin and a lot of other stuff.
Oh
he's,
yeah.
he's an interesting man. He's like the most interesting man in the world. He should have his own career.
is.
We actually,
We
that's
should
so
have him
funny.
on this podcast.
He should be on this
Told him
podcast.
that for weeks on end at the office. It's like,
Serious?
Dave, the most interesting man in the world. And he really is. I mean, who knows how to say pee in Ojibwe? I mean, that's just really impressive.
Pee abundantly.
Abundantly, that's right.
Overexerting yourself.
Well, I tried to teach him to shoot to expand his repertoire.
How's he doing on his shooting?
Not good. You know,
He must use his
Broadside of a
prose and
barn.
his words as power.
it's been a while, so he's gonna have to talk. Dave's gonna have to talk his way out of it, though.
That's right.
Larry was very excited at one point about a round I had shot until he realized that was the guy next to me.
No.
That was his target.
Oh, the guy.
Really
somebody
excited.
missed and hit your
I
target.
thought
by
it
accident.
finally clicked,
finally-
and I was looking at the wrong target. So, oh well, you know. But
Everybody.
I
So
did.
how did you? Let's say. All right. So part of.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Your
I'm just going to say I'm excited about this series.
Yeah, part of your origin story is that you wrote Monster Hunter and you self-published it and you started selling it at gun shows.
Yeah.
Why the heck there? And what was the how did you get from San Joaquin Valley as a poor kid who had to fight both the Portuguese and the Okies because everybody hated you?
No, I mean I mostly hung out with the Portuguese kids. That was my crew. We got to go to all the festas together, and all my homeboys were Portuguese kids, and you know, shout out to those guys. We lost the farm when I was a teenager, so I was a senior in high school, and my dad wound up moving to Utah to try to start a dairy farm in Delta, Utah, which is middle of nowhere. Actually, that's gonna be one of the settings of this book, because if you've ever been to Delta, Utah, it's West Desert, cowboy country. It's a fascinating place. Actually, it's a pretty cool town. So wound up going out there. I left California. I actually I moved out when I was 16 and stayed in California. I was going to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I had my own herd of cows. That was my college cows. I had my college fund.
Awesome.
That actually contracted tetanus because the place we put them had tetanus, and I wound up having to shoot my college fund, which was not fun. And that was a surprise because tetanus is pretty rare. You don't really see that too often.
Somehow allegorical in some way.
Yeah, so I wound up moving to Utah after that. Actually, and then I wound up getting an altercation. So I said it was Mexican, Okie, or Portuguese. Well, I wound up getting an altercation with a local Mexican gang and got my butt kicked my senior year. Actually, I did okay, but I did a little too good, so it was time to go before I got shot. Wound up moving to Utah and moved back in with my folks.
People probably can't see, but you're like 6 foot.
I'm 6'5", yeah.
You're a large man.
I'm a large mammal.
And you were probably large from.
Well, and all I did back then was move hay bales. You got to keep in mind, all my entire life was moving hay bales. I actually thought I was weak growing up because all the other kids I was around were also dairy farmer kids, and all the dudes I worked with were adult Mexicans who can work like you wouldn't believe. I mean, most people who've never done farm labor just don't understand how hard it is. And so growing up, I thought I was like average strength. and then I got around like normal people. And I was like, oh, wow, you got to be really careful not to break these people. They're very fragile. They're like made of paper. And because, you know, grow up in these like 120-pound 3-wire alfalfa hay bales is like you get a hay hook, pull. It's 120 pounds with one hand, you know, pull 120 pounds. And you just do that 1,000 times, you know, and this is what we did all day.
So were you bucking them up on a truck, or did you have a loader that you were loading it on?
So like I said, poor farmer. So this is back when they first had big hay bales, but we didn't have big hay bales.
You had
we
the 80-pounders, right?
Well, no. So in Utah, they have 2-wire bales, which are like 80
That's what
pounds.
I had in our ranch, too.
Yeah, so we were 120 because three wires. You know, so 100 to 120.
Okay.
Until it gets wet, and then it's like just a soggy, you know, like lead.
Like a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we used hay hooks. And that and my legs were always covered in little red dots my whole life because of bucking the hay bales onto my legs and kicking them with your knees up on top of stuff. And so this is what I did my whole life. And so then moved to Utah, actually wound up going to Utah State University and got a scholarship. So I got to, my first year was I got to go for free because I'm really good at dairy judging. Which is the FFA.
It's an art.
Yeah, where you would get 4 cows and you would rate the 4 cows on which cow is superior, right?
Yeah. The ones without tetanus are better.
Yeah, I tell you, tetanus is no joke. So when you guys step on that rusty nail, make sure you get. I've seen what happens to cows. You do not want tetanus. It is gross. It is painful.
Keep the cows away too.
Yeah. Oh man, most people never when you grow up on a farm, like you just kind of become very callous about a lot of stuff. Most kids don't ever have to shoot their pets. You know what I mean? Like that's like not a normal thing amongst like normal Americans in suburbia. On the farm, it's just like, oh, got to shoot the dog. Nice knowing you. And don't get me wrong, I love dogs. Well,
if they're gonna turn rabbit and tear your throat out, you gotta get.
Oh man, we had some. No, never. I won't get into that. No. I'm gonna wind up like Christy Gnome in trouble for.
That's right.
I was just thinking.
Oh, what's that dog's
But you're right.
name?
You're right on that perspective, though. It's different being on a ranch.
It is your life, your perspective of life and death, and the food chain and the circle of life is very different.
Absolutely.
Very different.
But what you're conceiving of for the series is very much sort of based out of this. It sounded like from what you've been saying.
Cowboy. And I use the term. I said Cowboy John Wick, but it's not. It's way more grounded than John Wick. But I've never done a character. There's that whole archetype where it's the lone problem solver archetype vigilante, Repairman Jack. It was the one that I grew up on. I love Repairman Jack. But then like the big hit one is like Jack Reacher. Your guy that goes around solving problems, taking care of, the Equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
Either the original Equalizer or the Denzel Washington Equalizer, but it's badass, competent person that handles stuff. So I wanted to do that. And that's something I've been wanting to do for a while anyway, before I talk to you anyway. And as people who follow me on Facebook have seen, and they know where this comes from, because I was getting into arguments with various people, and my comment about a lot of these people was very specifically people who are into, I'm trying to refer to this on the show, but minor attracted persons. And my comment when dealing with one of these people was, the only reason you guys are alive is decent people don't want to serve time. and so at that point I was like, and my fans are following this, and I was like, I should write a vigilante story. And they're like, yeah, and they all went nuts. And I was like, so I had that in mind before I talked to you. But honestly, like, so I want to go to the myth of the American West. And I don't want to get too much away, but me and you have talked a little bit, and Dave.
Well, I feel like I don't want to interrupt your creative process by making you talk all about it either. So
no.
However much you feel like comfortable talking.
Well, right now I'm in the outlining process, because this one I'm out. So last book I wrote a progression fantasy for Aethon, and I specifically Discovery wrote it. Because I'm an outliner.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of a fun action adventure, like Dungeons and Dragons level fantasy. But I needed to do that after coming off of like the big, serious, heavy Son of the Black Sword, like intricate 6-book.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just do something light. This one I got to outline and do research. And it's funny because as I've been doing my research, I've been dropping what my research topics are on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like a fun little, like,
pretty fun. What is he working
trail
on?
of breadcrumbs.
Oh, yeah.
See if I can piece.
And I'm like, I'm researching the following murders and the following mythological creatures.
He's doing some really subtle pre-marketing there. Well done.
It's fun. And also too, like, and one nice about doing the contemporary stuff is various classes that I take or weapons that I buy for research purposes are tax deductible. Exactly. Now that said, for any IRS people watching this,
he is going to write a book about.
I was going to say the overwhelming majority of my guns are not tax deducted. Only very specific ones for research purposes. Yeah. Just to get that on the record. Just be very clear there. Yeah. No, so the fun thing about it is I love researching different stuff. And that's what said one reason I got to like pick on David. Another thing too was anybody is a Louis L'Amour fan. I grew up on Louis L'Amour.
Oh, live and die by that.
Oh, I read. I mean, I actually when I was a kid, I ripped. Well, actually, I think the book just disintegrated. But I took one of the little cover sheets out that had his entire
collection,
and I checked them off as I read them. And I think
That's so awesome.
So I've read like 97% of the Louis L'Amour books. And it's funny because he has so many books that you can actually say 97%. And that's
It's pretty impressive.
it's not rounding.
Yeah.
That's like 97 out of 100.
But one of those,
Easy math.
he had some that got supernatural.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Haunted Mesa.
That's the one.
Excellent
That's the biggest one.
That's one of my favorites.
And the
right there.
Sackets go supernatural a few times too.
I can't remember Walking Drum.
That was
remember.
Kirbyshard, 12th century, 14th
Yeah,
century.
yeah.
I think 12th century.
Yeah.
Great book. Oh my gosh. I had that one
Yeah, I
on.
love it.
I had that one on audio back when it was cassettes. And so it was like 80 cassettes in this giant box. And you just kept changing the cassettes.
And they were like the squeaky plastic, right? Like you would, and they would like have the little.
Yeah, and you'd have to put your finger in and.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember just having like a Walkman and driving our tractor and, popping my feet up as I'm driving, and listening to Louis L'Amour tapes.
Oh, man.
And doing
So
exactly what you're
good.
saying, ejecting it out, putting it into the box, making sure there's no dust.
Yeah.
Because that's my uncle's collection.
Young people don't understand having a pencil there to shove in and twist it back in when it would flop out. Good times, man.
What about Last of the Breed?
Oh, it's great. The test pilot that gets shot down
Yes.
over Siberia.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's such a good one.
What is he? Irish and Native American?
And he never got to finish that one. That was one he had a sequel planned where he goes back.
No way.
Yeah, so the main character was going to sneak back into Russia, and he was going to write that, and he never did. And
Would that be called Firefox? Just joking.
dude, Firefox is a classic.
Yeah,
That's a
I kinda gotta
classic.
say- oh yeah,
Young
that's a fun
Clint
one.
Eastwood.
Yeah,
that's a
Like
good movie.
old school. He looks like his kid now.
Oh, he does. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, specifically Haunted Mesa was one that was drawing influence from because Louis L'Amour was very, very big on the mythology of the West of like worlds collide.
Right.
And there was like where all the myth and legend comes from crashing into the real world and the two crossing over. He loved that stuff, and he snuck that into his books whenever he could. And so I was one of the things I really like that. And if you've ever been to this part of, I mean, obviously but you've been to this part of the country and you're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there are some alien places in the West.
Oh yeah. There are.
You get out in the middle of Wyoming and it's just this vast, empty. You'll be on some. It's like it's you and a prairie dog 500 yards away, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sort of. I was thinking about this, like with the South, and you were talking about Monster Hunter, and it's of course New England, right? The woods, and it's claustrophobic and dark and creepy. But the West can be. It's the opposite, but the same kind of thing. It's so vast.
It's vast. Well, it's like Corona, New Mexico, right? So the Roswell crash and everything like that.
yeah.
I mean, it's that same open expanse.
It's sort of the opposite, and yet it has the same like eerie effect.
Yeah.
Right.
It
Well,
can be
so, yeah, it's
scary.
like Monster Hunter set mostly in the South. The thing about the South is like you
Some
can
of it
be.
happens in Michigan. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do go up to the UP at one point. I bounce around a lot in that series. Like I love
The
geography.
snowblower taking out the zombies.
The snowblower scene is a legend.
That's pretty good.
But,
Anyway, go
But
on.
the South, like you could be 10 feet from something and not know it's there because there's a wall of trees in kudzu, and it's impenetrable. It's like when you drive down the freeway in Georgia or Alabama. You drive down the freeway. There's a town with population of 20,000 people just on the other side of these trees, and you can't see it.
Yeah.
Like literally, they're 100 yards
that
away.
seems strange to you.
Yeah.
It
I
seems strange to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
You
big
know.
shock.
Where are you from originally?
Texas. I grew up in.
Oh.
I'm from So
Yeah.
The plains.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here there's a town of 20,000 people. It's like I could see it from
Yeah,
10
right.
miles
Yeah.
away.
It's like it's raining on them, but it's not raining here. But
That's
I can
so true.
see it
Yeah.
rain on them
Yep.
over there.
But then you turn a corner and we got like deep canyons and mountainsides and whatnot and all these places. I'm
the
still
West
finding
is so
places.
beautiful. It's so amazing.
I mean, I've lived here since the 90s and I'm still finding places I had no idea existed.
I have one story. Just a second. So I was driving my Jeep across Wyoming one time, and the alternator went out, and I had took it out. I didn't have any money. I was like, it was pretty poor. I was a writer, so I took it out, and I needed to get to a town that was about 150 miles away to get it rewound. And I got over there and I showed it to the guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I can do this." And he said, "Where are you from?" Anyway, you sound funny. I said, "Alabama." He said, "Oh yeah, you got those things there." And I said, "Yeah, what? What is those? Those things in the trees."
Lots of trees.
Well, man,
It's weird. I get claustrophobic. I lived in North Carolina for a couple of years, with not with Tony, but while he nearby Tony. Yeah. And it was like, I wouldn't realize it. Then I'd come back to Texas to like visit family. I'd be like, could breathe, because it was like I wasn't hemmed in.
It's strange. These are things Americans know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The European mind cannot
comprehend this.
like honestly,
Maybe Russia.
more trees. You guys have more trees in a couple miles than we do in the state. I mean, we have forests, but we have to go to our forest. You guys are just. I don't know. So there's a bunch of stuff to draw from, and kind of that culture. The cowboy, Western, rural, take care of business, handle your business. It's a very different mindset. But honestly, it's.
Do you think that there is a different set of monsters out here in the West?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're in Utah at the moment. So.
One thing we talked about, me and you, a little bit, is like American mythology, and building on that. And so I'm kind of gonna just kind of go nuts on that. I mean, one thing too is I got to be careful too, because Monster Hunter is going to have a little bit different flavor, and Monster Hunter is also every monster in the kitchen sink.
Yes, that's true.
This is going to be a little more. I'm trying not to think of the. I don't want to give too much away here. A little more specifically directed, towards one specific type of thing. But but obviously variety is a spice of life, and so there's a lot of different things out there to play with. One nice thing about monsters, writing about monsters for a living, is there's so much stuff out there that every culture has monsters for me to steal from, and then every now and then I'll just make one up completely, fabricated. And then the funny thing is then people will then try to figure out which ones I made up and which ones were borrowed, and then they'll get it wrong. And other ones they'll think that like I know I've done my job when they're out there Googling, the monster that I made up and trying to find where that comes from, in the world.
It's like when everyone was Googling, what was the guy's name from The Martian that Matt Damon played? But they were Googling that guy's name in real life.
Oh, was he a real
actual
astronaut?
photo? It is like, we haven't been to Mars. He's not a real guy.
But Star Trek,
Yeah.
we've been all kinds of places.
Which is, I think, actually one of the things that is hurting the space program in a way, is that literally people think, well, we've already been to Mars. Why do we, we haven't though.
You can never underestimate how dumb people are. I mean, it's just, there every now and then there'll be a thing and you're just like, really? You think that, huh?
Yeah, especially people in cities.
I was like, you're messing with me.
They
right?
think things come. I mean, where the hell food comes from, they have.
Yeah.
So there's a thing about
Not all people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how political I can get on this, but I live at the border of. I'm about as far east as you can go in Utah before you get into Wyoming. So the next town east of where I live is Evanston, Wyoming. Okay, like actual town. Not that Evanston's a metropolis or anything,
Yeah.
But I love Wyoming, but the people of Wyoming are very specific. They have Wyoming culture, and so there was a whole Liz Cheney thing. And you remember how she lost her primary by like 10 bazillion points?
something like that. I think that was the number. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the worst. It was like one of the second worst loss in American primary history. I don't know what the first guy did. But I come from that area, so when I see people like would be on the internet, and they'd be talking about January 6th being the worst thing ever, and I'd be like, it's not a big deal, and they'd be like, oh, how can you think that? And I'm like, I live next door to Wyoming. If you want to see what the people in my part of America think about it, look at Wyoming. Yeah. That's my next door neighbor. I mean, get over yourself. So I don't want to get too political there, but like the mindset and the attitude of the American West is different. I mean, that's it though. We have big cities too, and we have the same problem as the rest of the country. You have your big blue urbanized area that bosses everybody else around.
Yeah.
And so Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Boise. Oh man, Boise's just gotten crazy weird. Like all of,
That's
actually
university
Arizona.
town too. Yeah.
Yeah, Arizona. People are right. Arizona it's funny because Arizona is a swing state. No, Phoenix is a swing city. I mean, Arizona is
way.
New Mexico. That's the other one that.
Yeah.
That one.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
New Mexico is not a blue state. It has Albuquerque. Albuquerque's a blue city.
Yeah. It may, we'll see what happens there next time. But the thing about Wyoming is there is distinct different regions of culture in Wyoming too. That's kind of, I love Wyoming. I spent a lot of time there. I love the Wind River Range, particularly, and the things about it. Pinedale is a rally point for my fitness because I got some kids on the West Coast. So if the nuclear weapons hit, we're gonna meet at City Hall and where the big antler thing is, and that's up in Texas.
I used to go to Pinedale all the time. Yeah.
I like
family.
Pinedale a lot.
To go up to Gillette for a shooting match, and you would walk into Montana during the match because it was a big long field course, like mile long field courses, and you would just like walk into Montana, and Wyoming is a cool place.
Yeah, and creepy and weird too at the same time. Good place to set a series.
Yeah, for
Well,
example.
then you got stuff like Jackson Hole and like just like Utah has Park City, where you've got these little enclaves of like super rich, primarily like coastal elite money people.
Some of the most expensive real estate in America.
Yep. I drove down the back way to get here to record with you guys, and so I drove through Heber City area there and Park City, and you get like these giant ski resort areas. That's where Sundance Film Festival is. So another thing too is I can kind of intrude into that world a little bit when I need to like. I'm not giving too much away, but like I wanted to like poke at certain people.
Well, you could also use. We're in Utah, so you could use.
Yep.
You could use Park City. And
Yeah, so it's
this
very
is
much.
Mike's world, by the
Yeah,
way.
he knows.
Oh yeah.
He knows.
Yeah.
It's
Been up there a
squirrely.
lot.
It's
very squirrely.
It's very squirrely. it's like so Utah. So it's like I could be on the farm with cows and then drive into town and get into a fight with Quentin Tarantino over a parking space. That's the nature of that area over there at Summit County. And
But you could tell everybody that's how you tore your rotator cuff. It's like I beat the crap out of Quentin.
there's very few Hollywood people I don't think I could take in a fight. No, not to be Well, I mean, obviously the guys on all the steroids for the Marvel movie roles. I mean, those guys are gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah, they might be tough, but I don't know if they can swing. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man.
Maybe.
So most of those, I take Mark Ruffalo, no problem. That's not even. Yeah, that's not even. Yeah, I do that one for free.
That's awesome.
All right, we'll line them up.
Okay, we'll see what we can do. But well, let's do another episode soon. But let's maybe think about wrapping this up. We got pizza wafting that we're going to write off on our taxes along with Larry's guns. So let's
Only research guns.
yeah. Oh, his research guns.
looking right
Our
at the
research
camera as I say
pizza. This pizza is going to feature heavily in the graphic novel of Larry's book. Tony, do you have anything final you want to wrap up with?
No, I mean, one thing I'd like to say, though, is how pleased we are to be working with Larry. And this is like to be able to let Larry be Larry with a new series. It's just like it's what Arc Press is created for, things like that. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much, Mike Gee, Larry Correia, Arc Press Editor-in-Chief Tony Daniel. I am David Afsharirod. This has
you
been
said it right.
I said it right. Go for Wood Lounge, and remember, the humans win in the end.
Damn right.
Hoorah.